Look, the godfather of AI in Jensen NVIDIA. I mean, this is really the earnings heard around the world, the most important earnings in many years. And it shows this AI party, it's just getting started in terms of relative to what we're seeing in terms of peak demand. And now, I mean, Lisa talked about it, this tidal wave of spend, it's coming to the rest of tech. And in our opinion, that's going to continue to fuel this tech bull market in what I almost view as a Taylor Swift moment for the tech bulls. Yeah, the haters are going to hate, but I mean, we just got back from Asia. And demand continues to accelerate. And like I said, demand's outstripping supply 15-1. You start to look at godfather of AI, Jensen NVIDIA. This is just the start of the AI revolution. We believe a year from now, NVIDIA is a $4 trillion market cap. I mean, you see the use cases. I believe this is the biggest transformation we've seen in tech in the last 35, 40 years. It is a fourth industrial revolution playing out. This is not hype. It is real. And I think we see that more and more with data points, whether it's Oracle, Palantir, ServiceNow. We see it, but I believe Salesforce and others. This is just the start of this AI revolution, obviously being led by godfather of AI, Jensen NVIDIA, Nadella and Redmond, but it is not stopping. It's not stopping. And also, the bears have hated this rally for the last 2 years. And I think it's just going to be another painful year ahead for the bears. I mean, look, you have $1 trillion of AI-driven CapEx. They're the only game in town. Numbers, we believe, go up significantly higher. I think the street's still underestimating in terms of what ultimate demand looks like here. And I think as this all plays out, it is not an expensive stock. And I think when you look next 6-12 months, not just about NVIDIA, but I think the rest of tech, we believe tech could be up 25-30% over the next year. I mean, our view is this was going to be the Fed ripping the Band-Aid off. I mean, in terms of cutting 50 bips, I think it was a huge first step to what's going to be just a massive dovish stance over the next 12 to 18 months. And for tech investors, that's a risk-on trade. It's bullish. That's why today, a lot of those bears that have been out for the last month after, a few years in hibernation mode, they're going back into those caves this morning. $1 trillion of CapEx is what we see from an AI perspective over the next 3 years. You go back 6 months ago, we thought that was $500 billion. And so every quarter, if you look at the underlying demand, not just from hyperscalers, but eventually it's going to be other enterprises, it's just starting. So all of our checks are showing demand's actually continuing to accelerate. As Farrell talked about, yields are improving from a production perspective, that they're the only game in town. Use cases are coming through. We saw that with Palantir. You see that with ServiceNow. Now this fourth industrial revolution, Rome wasn't built in a day, neither will AI revolution. It's starting to come together. Anyone that thinks this is hype, you listen to conference calls, NVIDIA, AMD, Microsoft, Palantir, and others. I mean, I don't know what watch party those bears are, but they're not listening to the calls that I am. Right now, only game in town. AMD and obviously Lisa Su and others are going to benefit. The reason this is a LeBron in high school is because they are so ahead of any other competitor, and right now they're the only game in town. The new gold, the new oil, it's AMD chips. And when you come away from that conference call last night, now I get after hours and bears will come out, but there's nothing that makes me think that we don't have a year from now or less, you have $3-4 trillion market caps. Godfather of AI and NVIDIA, what's happening in Cupertino with the AI super cycle starting off on iPhone 16, and what's happening with Nadella and Redmond. Yeah, I mean, demand's outstripping supply 15-1 from a chip perspective. It's actually incrementally more bullish than even a few months ago when we were in Asia because of enterprise demand. And look, NVIDIA is the only game in town now, but the use cases are exploding. That's bullish for hyperscalers. You look at Microsoft, Google, of course, Amazon. And I think it just shows this is about $1 trillion of incremental AI CapEx over the next 3 to 4 years. Big tech's leading it. The sovereigns ultimately will get it from a government perspective and other enterprise. I think we're in between this sort of CapEx massive tidal wave and where you've actually seen the numbers come out where you're going to see the monetization from a software perspective. You've seen it in Microsoft, seen it in Oracle, seen it in Palantir, ServiceNow. But the second, third, fourth derivatives, all of our checks are showing when we go into December, you go into March, you go into June in 25, that's where I think numbers come up significantly higher. And I think that's where, even though we've seen some sort of soft spots, obviously with Salesforce a few quarters ago and others, I believe this is just an air pocket, and ultimately we're going to see numbers go a lot higher for software. The bears have been worried about recession the last 2 years, while tech's just continued to rip higher, and they'll come out of hibernation mode here and there over the coming months. You got the election, of course, in terms of some of the risks, but it just, as we talked about, this is a fourth industrial revolution, and that's not changing. If it's 25, it was 50 bips. It's not changing regardless of who's going to be president. This is an unprecedented tech spending environment. Fed cutting, I believe, just makes it more of an autobahn in terms of what we're seeing for tech. I'm not saying everyone's going to benefit, but in terms of the AI revolution, the winners, that's why I believe over the next 3 to 6 months, we're looking at NASDAQ 20,000.
Look, Lisa Su, you never bet against her. I mean, they will be a clear beneficiary in terms of on the chip side. I mean, a lot of that we won't see probably for another 18 months, but I don't believe a lot of that AI is being built into AMD. I think AMD is going to be a clear beneficiary.
Look, I mean, it's a matter of when, not if, that this is an iPhone 16 super cycle, an AI-driven one. Now, obviously, a lot of, the bears talking about pre-orders and trying to, obviously scared many investors earlier this week. Josh, in Asia, no one was expecting pre-orders to be up massively. It's actually in line with expectation. This is all about as Apple Intelligence rolls out into the December quarter, into March. That's why I believe this will be the largest Apple iPhone cycle that we've seen. I think markets better digesting it the last few days, but we're going to continue to sort of navigate. I mean, the haters will continue to hate on Apple, but I believe this is ultimately a $4 trillion market cap in what I believe in 2025. Oh, I don't think it has. I mean, I think actually markets underpricing where units go. I think units could ultimately be up high single digits, potentially double digits. Market call it 5% in terms of overall growth. 300 million, and this is most important, is that 300 million iPhones have an upgrade in 4+ years. Of 1.5 billion iPhones. That's setting up for an unprecedented upgrade cycle. And look, the AI revolution now is coming through Cook and Cupertino. And I believe 20% of the world over the coming years will access AI through an Apple device. And I just think this is one where the street is underestimating what the consumer AI revolution is going to mean to Apple stock.
Look, and it speaks to our view going into the year, and NASDAQ 20,000 is ultimately where I think we head. Tech stocks up another 15%, because even though this has been led by Godfather of AI, Jensen, NVIDIA, the multiplier for every dollar spent on NVIDIA chip, $8 to $10 flowing through the rest of tech. Software, infrastructure, semis, and I think now consumer AI revolution with what's happening in Apple. In my opinion, it is 9 p.m. in the AI party that goes to 4 a.m. And I think this tech market, bull market's going to continue. This is not a bubble. This is not a 99 here it comes moment, which is, I think now it's about really a fourth industrial revolution. It's about that multiplier. Now it's software. And I think when you look at consumer, that's why Apple, it's going to be the renaissance of growth that starts as AI-driven super cycle from Apple. And that Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA on the enterprise side, that's where I think it's a get out popcorn moment, in our opinion, for tech stocks still, 15% higher.
300 million iPhones have not upgraded in 4+ years of 1.5 billion iPhones. And that's why I'm in Asia today. I'm this second trip in the last 6 weeks. Everything we're seeing in the supply chain, builds have been increasing, up 10 million from where it was to begin with. So that indicates if that trajectory continues, and this is even before Apple Intelligence in terms of everything gets rolled out, this will be a historical year for Apple. I think this will be their biggest unit year ever. And it's just a drum roll to what I view as an AI-driven super cycle that now starts to take place. Super cycle I would view as anything above 230 million units. And I think this could be 240, potentially 250 million units from what we're seeing. Now, look, Joanna hits it, on exactly in terms of the upgrade cycle. Part of it is the most pent-up demand we've ever seen for an upgrade, just given how many have not upgraded. But when you look at Apple Intelligence, AI will now, I think 20% of consumers around the world, they will access AI through Cupertino. And that is ultimately the key to really what's going to be a multi-year upgrade cycle. iPhone 16, iPhone 17 speaks to our $300 price target. And I think a year from now, this is a $4 trillion market cap or soon.